on the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there is having themselves a great day. Yesterday was obviously a very crazy day. So many things happened. A lot of the final puzzle pieces really did fall into place. I don't think any of us expected it to be easy. I think it was probably a little rougher than I was even expecting. But here we are coming out on the other side. And again, I'm not making promises here, and I am going to say without a doubt, the silver lining for sure is millions of people have awoken to what's been going on. Millions of people have realized that the media can't be trusted. Millions of people now see that their own politicians don't care about them. Millions of people saw what happened with the election and all the shenanigans. I've got some really good breakdown on a slide coming up here in a bit. Millions of people have awoken to what is really going on. Without a doubt, that is powerful. Now, I know a lot of people are like, yeah, but they've got a supermajority and blah, blah, blah. First off, the 20th is still coming. I know there's people that are trying to push the 25th Amendment to get Trump out of office because they're scared that he might do something crazy. And frankly, he might. Who knows? Who knows? We'll see. We'll kind of talk a little bit more about that as well. Now, one of the things I want to say is really sad is Ashley Babbitt. It's Air Force veteran. I think she did 4 tours. She was a major Trump supporter, and she was inside, got too close to that door, and they shot her dang near point-blank range. I'm not going to show the video or any of that. It's horrific. And 4 people lost their lives. 1 person definitely to gunshots, and from what I understand, the other 3 were medical emergencies. They don't really know for sure. I'm assuming it wasn't necessarily gunshots because that's beyond a medical emergency. But this is a sad, sad moment in a lot of ways. Now, I will say I'm glad that the damage that was done to the Capitol was minimal. And again, I don't think breaking things, I don't think starting fires, I don't think damaging, I don't think causing, hurting others. I don't think any of that's okay, ever, never. Never going to agree with that. If you're defending your life, defending your family, defending your home, totally different story, and it goes without saying. But outside of that, if you're on the aggressive or if you're going into someone else's territory, it gets a little dangerous when you start heading down those waters. So this young lady lost her life. It's very, very tragic how it played out. One thing that's bothersome to me is, if anybody shoots anybody, like a cop shoots anybody of color or anything like that, it's a national emergency and it's horrible. And again, I think police shooting anybody is a bad thing. But what's sad is there is actually people, I've heard a number of them, that are celebrating her and the loss of her and happy about. It's just so bizarre to me how divided this country is. And for a lot of the people right now that are on the left that think, hey, we'll get through this once Biden's in office and everything's cool. No, we won't. This is divided. You guys have started back in 2016 calling anybody that supported Trump a deplorable, and you guys have gone out of your way to attack, maim, damage, destroy anything that had anything to do with Trump. So to think that people are just going to forget, no. There is a division, a divisiveness that has occurred. People are waking up. And again, the millions of people are waking up to the fact that there are, 1, sheeple everywhere that are just doing what they're told and don't question anything. And 2, a lot of people that do support these communistic agendas. And I frankly think a lot of us aren't too thrilled about that. Now, a lot of people are suggesting that the storming of the Capitol actually involves some people. I'm not going to say the whole thing was a false flag, though they are calling it that. That people went in there. Obviously, the Air Force woman that passed away, Ashley, she wasn't part of the false flag. She was someone that was legitimately there for the right reasons, didn't do any damage, but she was there for the right reasons. Going inside the Capitol was certainly a questionable decision by anybody that chose to do it. But this guy's kind of infamous in some of the pictures about standing up on the floor of the Senate, right? And he was up there, Mr. Horned Man, the Viking, they were calling him. Well, oddly, he was also at a BLM movement with darn near the exact same face paint, not, pretty close. Same exact everything else, same tattoos, same everything. It's the same dude. So this guy is a BLM protester, and he was there dressed up as a Trump supporter, which is what a lot of people suggest was the deal. Now, a lot of people are wondering, why did Trump have all of us come out and be in Washington, D.C.? There's some speculation that there was an attempt or was going to be an attempt to do something else, very possibly the 25th Amendment. With all the things that played out, with the way Pence basically showed his card and showed us all what side of the fence he's on, there was a lot of discussion that we, the people, were actually needed to kind of help keep that from happening. Because if it did, and there was millions of people there, worse things probably would have unfolded had they gone ahead with their plans and had that many patriots ready to go. So I think it thwarted something. And then once that was taken care of, and then I think once it kind of got out of hand, then Trump came out, everyone came out and basically said, this isn't cool. This isn't cool. Stop, stand down, whatever. So a lot of things happened, and some of them good, some of them bad, but I think a lot of it was meant to show a force. It was meant to show how many people actually support this guy that they hate. And I think it was also meant to protect and insulate a potentiality that probably didn't happen. There's rumors that they found bricks and they were finding other propane tanks out on the streets in D.C. next to certain places. So again, there was this odd familiarity about how this was supposed to happen, and I think having all the patriots there played a large difference. Now, this is an interesting article. Is MAGA's storming of the Capitol an omen of the coming Civil War? I don't really think it's an omen of the coming Civil War. I think it actually defined it to a degree, or at least showed people how much division currently exists. And I would say, from the most part, the hatred seems to be heavily from one side, and the other side's more like, just don't tell me what to do. And that's all. I don't want to ruin your life, and my freedom would be given to you as well. But this is showing the United States, this is showing anybody in the positions of leadership, how divided we are. Now, again, people on the left, I think they can just snap their fingers once this is all said and done, once Biden's in office, whatever happens. Once all that occurs, they think, hey, we'll just get back together. Everything will be cool. We'll start having Thanksgivings all over again. It's like, I don't think so. I think a lot of people have been irreparably damaged by family members, by friends, by whatever. Calling people out just because you have a different ideology, a different philosophy. I mean, I don't go out and cause damage. I don't go out and hurt people. But I certainly support freedom, and I really liked Trump. I like Trump still. He was the one guy that stood against this massive machine, this deep state. He was the one guy that was standing up and saying, yes, there is a problem, let's fix it. And I love him for that. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I've never been a Republican, and I never will be. And I have never been a Democrat, and I never will be. Donald Trump was awesome. Donald Trump was beyond politics. Donald Trump was the guy that was saying what I've been screaming for 25 years. And we finally had a politician in office that was literally willing to do something about it. Do I think he's done? The 6th has passed. Congress has certified who the electors will be. And so we'll see. I still think we've got the red 1 through red 6. We're going to talk about that here coming up in a second. Now, just to go over the Senate votes, there was 2 states that objected, Arizona and Pennsylvania. And of those 2 states, 6 senators voted to back the objection, essentially saying there's a problem. 93 of them said, yeah, no, not going to do it. And one of them obviously did not vote, which is interesting because when you look at the same thing for Pennsylvania, you got 7 of 92. Still one person didn't vote, but one extra person managed to agree. So of the people, and I'm going to say, I was wrong about Ted Cruz, maybe. Again, I'm still not going to give anyone points because nothing's changed. We've heard a lot of talk, and we've seen some people that were willing to put their necks on the chopping block, so that's where Cruz is getting points from me. But again, he's a talker. I haven't seen any action. We'll see what happens. But we got pretty much Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, John Kennedy, Cindy Hyde-Smith, and Senator Roger Marshall were the 6 senators that actually believe in the Patriots and actually believe in casting a vote that's going to be shown forever. And they felt it was very important to be on that side of history. Interesting. When we've talked about how few members there are, I will say there was like 100 and something people on the House, that voted for these things. So a lot of 2-year voted people on the Republican side definitely saw a reason to support this. So the numbers in the House were actually very, very cool. The numbers in the Senate sucked. And some of the people that Marsha Blackburn's one of them pulled her vote back. Chicken. Again, it was the same thing. You could see who is afraid to step forward. But in the case of Pennsylvania, we got Josh Hawley again. We've got Scott Perry. We've got some others in here else. We got Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, Cindy Hyde-Smith, Cynthia Loomis, Rick Scott, Roger Marshall, and Tommy Tuberville. So those are the 7 people that backed the Pennsylvania side of it. Again, people had to show where they were. Pence had to show where he was in regard to other things. Again, the 6th was always supposed to play out this way, and again, I think some protection was put in place to keep really bad things from happening. And unfortunately, the Capitol thing happened, which could have been way worse. I'm sorry to say, no fires were started inside the building. There was some damage done. There's a lot of question around the police, and certainly there was one. I've seen some video, and I couldn't find any of the video myself. I saw it, someone else was sharing it, and I saw how the police, they literally moved the barricades, and then the police started walking as protesters just came in. There's a lot of weirdness about how this played out, and certainly the lack of preparation for how this played out is just, it speaks for itself. It's unreal how that played out. It's very strange. So when people call it a false flag, there's a lot of weird circumstantial stuff that happened that would, lend me to maybe share that same opinion. But the fact that there were a lot of patriots intermixed in there, so it became sort of a different thing. Now, Headline USA and a few other places have been talking about how Trump's cabinet members are maybe trying to plot a 25th Amendment coup. Now, they want to get him out of office now. They need to get him out of office. Why? Because odds are Trump is going to do some stuff on his final days. And I wouldn't even say they are for sure the final days, but I do wonder if these are kind of the final days of our old capital letter United States of America that was the corporate version of this country that was started eons ago. I think maybe back when, might have been Lincoln really that started it. But that being said, that might be the end of that. I don't know. Again, we'll see how it plays out. But this guy definitely betrayed us, betrayed the president, and I don't think there's a whole lot of people that are ever going to support him again. And again, there's a lot of question around what he was being asked to do by Trump versus what Trump actually meant. We're going to talk about that in a second. So again, people are talking about trying to pull Trump out of office, maybe trying to say that he's unfit to be president. That'll likely be the next set of steps that happens. And we'll see if that plays into the whole red 1 through 6, which we're going to get to in a moment. Something that's also quite interesting, Pence's chief of staff is blocked from entering the White House grounds, period. Trump has said, nope, no dice, you can never come back, never, ever again. And basically Trump has blamed this guy for being the reason why Pence did what he did. So this individual is no longer allowed. I doubt that Pence is very welcome there as well. And we'll see what happens as things continue to play out. Now, I want to touch on this because it's being misquoted, and I'm not saying he's saying anything other than what he is saying, but I am also saying that I'm hearing other people misquote what he said. And I want to be very, very clear about the words he used because I think they're telling. And I think it's interesting. And again, am I holding out hope? I'm not holding out on any hope. Do I still think some stuff's coming? Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I don't think we're done with this. Do I think for sure Trump's going to be president on the 20th? I don't know anything for sure. I really don't know anything for sure. Trust is something that I had issues with to begin with. I still have issues with. And a lot of things have happened of late that have really caused that trust to diminish. So I wouldn't say that's improved any, but I'm always hopeful and I always prepare for the worst. That's just a motto I live by. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. And we'll see. Usually stuff seems to fall kind of in between those two ranges. And that's perfectly cool with me. And that's what I'm hoping you guys will do as well, because I don't think this is over yet. Now, even though I totally disagree with the outcome, this is his quote. This is what Trump said, verbatim, quotes, "Even though I totally disagree with the outcome of the election and the facts bear me out, Nevertheless, there will be an orderly transition on January 20th. I have always said we would continue our fight to ensure that only legal votes were counted. Now, that was specifically what Trump said. He didn't say, I'm going to be leaving. He didn't say anything quite like that. He was the one phrase, there will be an orderly transition on the 20th, certainly implies that he's not going to be the president anymore. But it doesn't specifically state that, and sometimes lawyers use funky words, right? Because it can mean a couple different things, and sometimes you can hide behind those meetings. So while this represents the end of the greatest first term in presidential history, interesting that he specifically calls it the first term in presidential history. It's kind of one of those things, if you have a first, you're supposed to have a second, right? That's usually how they do it whenever you numerate things, right? If you're doing bullet points, if you're going to do an A, you have to have a B, otherwise don't have an A. There's no point to have a bullet point A if you're not going to have a second one. And so don't have a first if you're not going to at least have a second or a last, however you want to count it. But you need at least more than one to have a first, because if there's only one, well, you're first. You're the only one. You're the only one playing. So it's a very interesting set of words he uses. And he also says it's only the beginning of our fight to make America great again. There's a lot of people talking about what these cryptic messages mean. And again, am I assuming anything? No. Do I feel like they literally exhausted every avenue that was available to them legally and everything else? We're going to cover that here in a second, but yeah, I definitely do. Now, there's a lot of people that have been talking and, using faith and everything else under the sun, that they were sure that the Holy Spirit had touched them and told them that Trump was going to win. Now, I want to say that Holy Spirit and God work in very awesome ways. Now, sometimes they may lead you in a direction with your heart. They may want you to believe something because that's the direction you need to walk. And once you take 5, 6, 7 steps, that thing that you're walking towards may change. It may become something else. It may dematerialize, and you'll be like, why did I walk down the street? And then you'll notice something else while you're there. God doesn't make mistakes, and he works in mysterious ways. So for anybody that feels like they've been duped by God or anything along those lines, no. This has happened for a reason. Pendulums swing both directions. And you can't get mad that as the pendulum's swinging in one way, that it doesn't just keep going and keep going and keep going in that direction, because eventually it swings back around anyway. It'll go over the top. Pendulums go back and forth. We are experiencing the Trump part of the pendulum. Trump was created by a deep state, by a fact that so many people doubted what was going on, that didn't believe that that they had our best interests at heart, that we, the people, were still in charge of the country. Trump came in and represented us, we the people, in a fight that we've been having for a long time. And he didn't hide behind that, and he didn't pretend it wasn't happening. He played a huge role in that for all of us. So if there's a second term, cool. Doesn't look like it. I'm not saying, anything, YouTube. Please don't get mad. But I'm just saying, if there is, interesting. I look forward to seeing how this plays out to get us to that place. And am I holding out hope? Not holding hope, but I still have some. Now, I think we beat that dead horse a little bit. I want to cover 2 quick things here to finish out all this. I got a meeting I actually got to hop to here in about 8 minutes, so I got to make sure I finish recording. The whole Red 1, Red 2, Red 3. Again, Red 6 is the final one. Now, there's obviously, and I've talked about this a little, but I was kind of under the impression too, and I've said opposite of this, but I was under the impression that maybe they were going to happen in order. But at the same time, I acknowledge that they don't necessarily have to, and it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't, because, why would you spell it out? Here's step 1, here's step 2. When we take the country back, here's how we're going to do it. So a lot of discussions have happened. Central Communications blackout hasn't happened yet. We're sort of expecting that. And POTUS Twitter removal, haven't seen that yet. His @RealDonaldTrump was blocked, and I think they've threatened to do some stuff to him there. That could almost count as Red 1, but I don't think that's Red 1 yet. But class movement Pence, when everybody stormed the Capitol, Pence and Pelosi were both ushered out. So a lot of people think that Red 3 happened. For sure. Red 4, movement of military assets. I think a lot of stuff might have been happening, could have been through that. I don't know. I don't know if anyone got arrested yesterday under the guise of all this stuff, but certainly we had a lot of National Guard and a lot of troops and a lot of stuff in place. And so we're not sure if any of this is going to continue. Again, if the rest of these things are going to happen, it's hard to say. But it does seem like a couple of these may have been covered. So we'll see. We'll see if anything changes. Again, I'm not holding out hope. I am expecting that Trump's going to probably make a bunch of secrets known. I think he's going to declassify a whole bunch of stuff. I think it's one of the reasons why they're trying to kick the 25th Amendment. And he might even remind us in a lot of ways of how we've kind of been taken advantage of. Now, someone wrote an amazing paper here. It's called Reclaiming a Superpower, Americans Prepare for War. And it was like, wow, kind of heavy, but there's a lot of really good information in this. First off, tipping point. The American people have lost control of their election system. Election results no longer have any relationship to the voters' will. The election results are now in the control of a relatively small network of bad actors who manipulate the system to produce virtually any result. This impacts all Americans, irrespective of political party. So, snapshot, the margin of error and all this, they're basically calling out how in all the states that mattered, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, the number of bad votes that they could prove way outnumbered the margin of victory. I mean, way outnumbered the margin of victory. So anyone that says there's not enough to actually turn the election, that's absolutely incorrect. There's way more than enough votes to overturn the election. Not to mention, if you take all the votes that people don't dispute that Trump got, and then you add to that the votes that Biden got, there's almost 14 million more votes than there are voters that are registered. So nobody doubts Trump's numbers, but for some reason Biden's numbers seem 14 million inflated. If you take those 14 million off, Biden's way below the number of votes Trump got. So again, a lot of ways to slice that. So the election system failed, pretty solid on that. The election audit failed. No way to audit any of this stuff. We had no recourse. They basically tell us you should have fought this months ago. Before the election? Before you actually broke the law? Like, how do you fight something before it happens? And then again, it was like, there's not enough time. We're not going to stop this process. So again, the audit system failed. Judiciary failed. The judges failed completely. The government completely failed us. And the media completely failed us. There's no free press. So POTUS is virtually alone inside of the White House right now. This is one of the key things that's going on. He's got no support. He's got no active obstruction. So Trump's own chief of staff and White House counsel have actively thwarted numerous attempts to reach the president and actively campaigned against all efforts to secure election evidence. He's got no one helping him, it seems. So chaos reigns, widespread public support. That's the other thing that's really hard for them to deal with. 80 plus million people support this guy, love this guy. Not because he's Republican. Most people love him because of what he stands against and stands for. He stands for us, and he stands against them. So a lot of discussions around Executive Order 13848 have come into call, national emergency and all that, basically talking around how foreign influence, if that was found to be the case, that there was all sorts of procedures and stuff that could, happen to fix that, hopefully. Now, one thing that's been shown recently is these pictures of these Dominion voting machines. These are boxes for Dominion voting machines, and under it, it says made in China. These machines were made in China. Many people know that when you buy hardware made in China or when you buy software made in China, there are back doors. It's just part of the communist Chinese thing where they want to spy on anybody and everybody. So these machines were made in China. So there's definitely foreign influence without a doubt. We've got some other suggestions of that. There was international traffic spikes that occurred, like terabytes, insane, 10 terabytes per second of peak traffic that was happening between us and a foreign world or a foreign nation. Intellectual property was stolen. The Dominion voting system is based in Toronto, Canada, and assigns intellectual property, including patents and firmware, software, trademarks, yada, yada, to Hong Kong's Shanghai Bank Corporation. And 20% of the components used in U.S. voting machines are from Chinese-based companies. They know there was an Iranian threat. They know the government was concerned about foreign influence. We had Carolyn B. Maloney sent a letter to then Secretary of State Henry Paulson Jr. seeking review of the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States of acquisition of Sequoia voting systems by Smartmatic, a foreign-owned company. They called this out a long time ago, back in 2006. The Iran and Russian threat are acknowledged October 30th, 2020, and obviously we know there's more going on there. The Iranian threat was identified. The Russian threat was confirmed. So we've had attacks on American soil, even the destroying of evidence, the AT&T thing in Nashville. Now, again, they're still calling this a dark hat thing, and maybe it was. I still find it hard to believe that it was done and they warned everybody to get away. I just don't understand why the deep state would have done that. That's not their style. That's not their MO. They would try to scare and freak out everybody. So I still kind of think that was a White House thing. But regardless, an attack on American soil, however it happened, mail-in ballot justification because of COVID-19, right? All sorts of stuff started going into play that basically cinched the outcome of the election. So a lot of evidence is under our nose, but the access is blocked. That's one of the interesting things, right? We've got maneuvering. We've got evidences everywhere. We've got biased parties that are actually in control of the evidence and won't let people see it. And qualified investigators are restricted from the evidence, restricted from the areas, restricted from even looking into it. There has been an absolute, total, complete block to even allow any of this stuff to be looked into. Obviously, because they'd find something. So visible manipulation, it's an old art form. Vote fraud can take many forms, higher rates of filling out absentee ballots for people who hadn't voted, dead people voting, ineligible people voting, or even payments to legally registered people. Witness testimony. We had people in Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and other states have attested to election computer crashes, replacements, disposal of a server, impermissible and untested updates to the system, connections to the internet, yada, yada, yada. All the things that aren't supposed to happen. Mail-in ballots, there was easing of restrictions. There was pristine paper ballots, which shouldn't happen because you should fold them to mail them, but there was a lot of those that weren't. A lot of ballots that seemed to come out of nowhere. There was no signature verification. There was backdating of ballots. There was backdating of mail. There was ballots counted after the deadline. We've got examples of all this. We've got poll watchers were obstructed. We got late night pause or shift in the voting, literally, and they did that again in Georgia with the senator thing. They stopped in the middle of the night again, and then all of a sudden, numbers changed. It's nothing new. We got voter registration. We got election records were deleted. Servers were removed. It's basically hiding evidence. Witnesses were threatened and intimidated. So we got a lot going on. There's invisible manipulation going on everywhere. There's adjudication. There's, just so many different places where all this stuff got us in all sorts of trouble. We've got modifying beforehand. We've got media manipulation, changing the subjects, talking about whatever they want, not being honest about everything that's happening. It's been pretty crazy. We've got politicians who didn't do their job, wouldn't step up for us. So again, we the people have awoken to what's going on. We've got a government that's not looking out for us, and we got a lot of very upset people. So our choices, our windows to solve this is closing. Much time has been wasted by bad and incompetent actors seeking to run out the clock. Currently said Senator Cruz has proposed we conduct a 10-day audit of elections, which didn't happen, by the way, and it's not allowed to happen. This is not enough time to conduct an election audit. Had there been done a month ago, it might have been able to reveal the will of the voters. Now it will only clog the system and appease people who don't understand how the process works. Efforts for transparency will be thwarted at every stage. Our remaining options: contingent election for U.S. president, accept the obvious corruption in the United States government and basically take the crap president that they swore in, or war. So there is a divisive nature that's already happened within this country. Again, as I've said many a time, this is a great time to try to think about extending olive branches. But I will say, and I've done so in my life, there are certain people that I could extend an olive branch all day long. They'd probably grab it and hit me with it. So it's just going to be the way it is, and support those that you can. Understand there's going to be some that you can't. Understand that we've got a large family, 80+ million of us, and people are awakening every single day. We have more power than people realize. We need to unite and stay strong together. United, we stand. United, we are strong. We've got more coming. I'm going to do my best to keep talking about this, pointing out some of the craziness, and continue to speak about the deep state. That is one of the things that I am definitely geared towards. And we'll see how the presidential election plays out. We'll see if any more Reds show up. I'm very curious, so I'd be watching for those markers. I really would. I'd be paying attention, especially the POTUS Twitter removal. There's been a lot of talk that may be in process, and that national blackout's going to come right after that, and it's most likely going to be tied around Trump telling us stuff we need to know. So this isn't done because there's still some steps that are going to happen that are going to make the deep state mad. So stay tuned, stay with us. Keep supporting these crazy thoughts. There's a lot of us that are going to keep looking into this. Where we go one, we go all. It's on the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle.